Hi everybody, and welcome to Everydaymana. Today I am going to show you a delicious soup to make when you have some leftover ham. And if you don't have leftover ham, maybe you just want to go buy a little chunk of ham to make this soup, because the soup is delicious and it's so easy. In this pot I have a little can. I'm going to add a box of just chicken stock to that. I've got it over like medium-high heat for the moment. And I'm gonna add some carrots. I've got 3 carrots here that I've already peeled. If you wanted to use like frozen carrots, by all means you can. And I like to cut them into, you know, bite-sized pieces. So we're just gonna cut them into little pieces. This is one of those things that, you know, oftentimes when you cook a ham for dinner, you got a lot of leftovers. Most hams are pretty big unless you buy, you know, a very small ham. Ham freezes beautifully for leftovers, like for soups and things like that. So that's what this is. This is just some leftover ham that I put in the freezer. You can go ahead and cube it if you want to before you freeze it, or you can just freeze it and then cube it when you're ready. If you don't have leftover ham, the grocery stores do sell a little, I think they're about maybe half a pound or a pound of just diced up ham. Or you could use Canadian bacon, which is basically ham, that you can buy in the grocery store. You could use country ham, you could use deli ham. Probably not the best choice if it's thin cut, but you could get it cut real thick from the deli. You know, like a big chunk. Whatever you have is fine. You can mix up the vegetables any which way that you like. Typically, most vegetable soups, or soups in general, will start with celery, carrots, and onion. Now, I'm not going to add any celery to mine today because I don't have any. But if you have celery, by all means, add a little bit of celery to your soup. This is one of those recipes that you truly can customize to your liking. But I do want to add some carrots. My mother, when I was growing up, and I've made it for you before here on the program, anytime there was leftover ham, she would make a split pea soup, which I absolutely love. Using, let me move my trash can over here a little bit, using dried split peas. Ooh, that onion does not look the best in the world in there, does it? So what we're gonna do, you never know till you cut it open, is take that part out. The rest of it's still okay. You never know when you cut an onion, what's going to look like inside, and that's true for potatoes too sometimes. You just never know. So we'll have to be careful with this because it's going to be harder to cut since there's no solid piece. So we'll just probably have to do this one in rings. They do sell in the freezer department of your grocery store soup beginnings or soup vegetables or starter type things, which is pretty much onions chopped. Sometimes it has celery, sometimes it might have green pepper. So if you don't like to chop your vegetables, you can buy those. It's fine in soup. I don't mind chopping vegetables. I actually kind of find it therapeutic in a strange way. I don't know why, I just do. I really actually think that's all I'm gonna need. I don't think I'm gonna need any more onion, so I don't need this onion. I'll save it for something else. Now, we're gonna add some salt, about a teaspoon of salt, a little bit of dried thyme, and I'm gonna add some freshly ground pepper. Think about this pepper now. That's gonna work. There we go. Add some fresh ground pepper, stir that up. It really could not be simpler. Then we're gonna cut up our ham. Again, I have, you know, just some hunks of ham. This is already cooked, so I don't mind putting it on my board. If it, you know, ham is cooked. I don't put raw meat. As you know, you've heard me say so many times, I do not put raw meat on my wooden cutting boards. I know you can sanitize it with soapy water, but I just feel weird about doing that. I'm gonna chop my ham. It's actually still a little bit cold. I took it out of the freezer about an hour ago. This was a spiral cut. Actually, it was our Easter ham. Was spiral cut. You can usually get, I don't know, out of a decent sized ham, you can get, you know, 5 or 6 meals out of that thing. So it really is, your initial investment may be a little more, but it's very, very useful for many different things. So what I do oftentimes with my leftover, if I have a lot of leftover ham, is I will go ahead and portion it out and put it in like little Ziploc bags and freeze it for different meals. You could do omelets, you can do frittatas, you could do soups, you can do sandwiches, you can do many, many different things with leftover ham. If you don't have ham, you could substitute maybe, you know, like I don't know, maybe some turkey, if you had leftover turkey. You would not get that same smokiness that you're gonna get from the ham, but it would be good. I just think this soup is just ham and bean to me. Sometimes I make a bean soup with dried beans. Today we're not doing that. We're talking convenience here. We're talking getting your dinner on the table very, very quickly. I like my hams to be kind of, you know, bigger chunks, not real tiny little chunks. Not in this soup. You want a good mouthful in your bite. Okay, add your ham. This really is easy. Kind of a dump and simmer. You could put all this in your crock pot in the morning, and then when you get home from work or your day, your dinner is done. Okay, I'm gonna stir that up. Smelling good already. I'm gonna add 2 cans of Great Northern beans. I'm not draining them because I want that liquid. It's just a starchy water. It'll help kind of add a little body and thickness to the soup. And then 1 can of cannellini beans. Of course, you could add whatever kind of bean that you have in your pantry. If you've got navy beans, it's delicious in there. If you've got pinto beans or kidney beans or black beans, you can add any kind of bean that you like. And that's it. That just needs to simmer for like an hour. I'm gonna bring it up to a good boil, and then I'm gonna simmer it. I'm gonna clean up my board. When I come back, I'm going to start on our dessert, which is a red raspberry cake bar. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now our soup is simmering away. You could add a bay leaf to that. You could add some dried sage to that. Would really bring out those flavors if you wanted to. Now, we're gonna get started on a very, very easy red raspberry square. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. And I have here a 13 by 9 inch pan. In this bowl, I have 1 box cake mix, the yellow cake mix that, I like the ones that have like the pudding or the extra moisture in them. I'm adding a couple of tablespoons of melted butter. I'm gonna actually whisk my egg up a little bit before I add it into the This is not going to be like the traditional cake batter. This is actually going to be a crumbly, thicker mixture. Now you might need to add a little bit more melted butter if your cake, you know, it really, anytime you're baking, it depends on the It depends on the humidity of your day, of your room that you're in. And I actually do think I need just a tiny, tiny bit more butter in that. So let me get a little bit more butter. Melt it real quick. Can melt it in your microwave. I'm gonna add about another tablespoon. Let's go over here. I love a microwave for melting butter. Just don't forget it and let it pop. You know how it'll just, that water will just start bursting into the microwave? Had that happen many times, this morning included. Let's see, you gotta watch it just a second. You could use chocolate if you wanted to here. Yeah, it's good enough. That melted it. You could use chocolate. Chocolate and raspberries go great together. You could use anything you wanted, really. I just like the flavor of the butter mixture. Now again, you're making the base for this. I'm gonna add about half a cup of just chopped up pecans, because that's what I have, but you could use almonds, you could use walnuts, you could use, you know, pretty much anything you wanted to. Any kind of a nut. If you don't want to use nuts in there, then you don't have to. And it's very, very, very humid in here, so, I mean, not humid, but dry. So I'm actually gonna add a tiny bit of water to mine, probably just a couple of tablespoons, and that will be good. Yeah, that's perfect. Now, you want this to be crumbly. You see how that's just nice and crumbly? We're gonna put this in the bottom of our bowl. Okay? Then we're going to take our spatula or your hands, either one. I'm actually just gonna use my hands. And you wanna press it out into the bottom of the pan. My hands are sticking to the mixture. So let's do this a different way. Spray the bottom of your spatula. And help yourself along a little bit. Okay? You just want to spread it out evenly in your pan. That's going to be your base for your bars. Then you're going to take a jar of red raspberry preserves. This particular one is seedless because I couldn't find any with the seeds, and I actually really like raspberry anything. Raspberry is one of my favorite, probably next to peaches is my favorite fruit. I could just sit and eat a whole package of raspberries on their own, and actually do that quite often. I love them. They're good and they're good for you. You want to spread that lightly over top of your base, evenly, just all over. Okay? And then we're going to bake this at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes or so, or until it's golden and cooked through, and then we will make a glaze to go on it. So let's put this in our top oven here at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes. Somebody will set me a timer. Let me wash up my hands. And then we're gonna make a glaze to go on top of that, because every little bar needs a glaze. Come on, soap. There we go. Okay, now, for your topping for this, get rid of some of my mess here. for our glaze, we need some powdered sugar, some water, and a little bit of vanilla extract. You could use almond extract if you wanted to. If you have raspberry extract, you could use that. I'm just going to use vanilla. I'm going to use all of it because I like the flavor of vanilla. And then you want to stir in a couple of spoonsful of either water or milk. And then stir that until it comes together. Let's see if I got a little whisk over here. I do. Might need to add a little more water. Yeah, probably about another spoonful. Don't add too much water at first because then it just gets thick. And that comes together into a beautiful glaze that when our cake comes out of the oven or our bars come out of the oven, we will drizzle this over top of it. So we're just gonna set that to the side until it's time to get that out of the oven. I'm gonna clean up my mess. I am the messiest little cook. I'm gonna clean this up, take a quick break. When I come back, we are gonna make a Johnny cake, which is kind of like a fried cornbread patty. We'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now your bars will be done when a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. I took mine out of the oven and I actually just popped mine in my freezer just to cool down real quick so we could glaze them. While we're waiting on that, the soup is ready. We're just gonna make some fried Johnny cakes, which are kind of like a cornbread pancake, if you will. I've got here some oil, just canola oil that's preheating, and we're gonna mix up our batter. I have a cup of cornmeal, cornbread mix, a cup of self-rising flour, which is not something I use real often, but sometimes I just think it's better, it's easier. So let me whisk that up. Let me grab a little whisk. The self-rising flour already has your salt, your leavening agents, your baking powder, baking soda, and all that in it. All right. Then I'm going to add 1.5 cups of buttermilk. Now, buttermilk is not something I keep in my pantry at all times, but they do make powdered buttermilk, and that's what I have here. You will need whatever your package calls for to equal 1.5 cups. Now, if you have fresh buttermilk, by all means use fresh buttermilk. I'm gonna add an egg to that, just 1 egg. And I'm gonna lightly beat that egg. And then I'm gonna add that to my dry mixture. I'm also gonna add some melted butter, about a stick of melted butter to that. And then we're gonna stir that all together till it forms a batter. I'm gonna try not to get it all over myself. Making no promises on that. I am just a messy cook, just the way it is. If you'll let this set for a minute, it will hydrate and come together as a nice batter. Okay. Now we need to let our water come up to a temperature. While that's, let's check on our soup. while that's doing its thing, look at that pot of soup. Oh, that looks so good, and it smells divine. Again, if you have some bay leaves, you could add a bay leaf. You could add some dried sage. You could add really anything you wanted to that. That's ready to go. I've just got that on simmer. Absolutely delicious. All right, to your mixture, you want to add some shredded cheddar cheese. I think my oil is plenty hot. Let's drop a little tiny piece in there just to see. Yeah, that's good. All right. I like to do it just with a little scoop and a spoon. You want to drop into your frying oil, just like you would be cooking pancakes. If you want to do this on a griddle, you can. Okay, turn that down just a little bit. If you use a scoop, then they kind of all come out the same size. I'm going to fry them 3 at a time. They fry pretty quick. Once they get brown on one side, then you want to flip it over without hurting yourself. They're a little testy. I left him in there too long. Okay? Just like you would be cooking pancakes. They don't take long to cook. Flatten them out just a little bit. About 2 or 3 minutes on this second side, and you're good to go. Alrighty, now, here are our Johnny cakes. I wanted to show you, these are the big ones, or you can make little small, little handheld size. Either way, it doesn't matter, however you want to cook them. Now, remember our bar that we made and our glaze? Now it's time to glaze. You want to make sure this is chilled, and you want to take your glaze that you made with the powdered sugar, the water, and I used vanilla extract. I don't like a whole lot of glaze. If you want to have more sweetness, then you can double the amount. I'm not a real big glazy person. I am the odd person who likes cinnamon rolls without the glaze. So, you know, you make more if you want. For me, I'm just not a big glaze. I like some, just not a lot. You just want to make sure it's drizzled all over your bars. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Now, just cut them into bars and serve them. You know, they make great, if you want, they make great little snacks or desserts. Great with a cup of coffee. If you want to keep what you don't eat, just cut them into bars and put them in Ziploc bags, and there you go. They're ready to go. Or just cover the whole thing with foil and eat it as you want to, however you want to do it. You could top that with a little bit of powdered sugar too if you wanted to. Either way, here is our delicious, delicious soup. Let me just bring it up here. Our soup that you could totally make in a crock pot. if you wanted to. Just put all of your ingredients in your crock pot in the morning and let it go on low all day or high for like 3 to 4 hours, and you're good to go. So there's our delicious soup. Now you could, again, add some celery, add some sage, add some bay leaf. Just remove the bay leaf before you serve it. You could add some peas. If you wanted to use like the frozen cut up peas and carrots, you could add that. I used cannellini beans and Great Northern beans, but you could use navy beans, pinto beans, black beans, whatever kind you want. Then here are our fried Johnny cakes. Again, I made some of them the big size and some of them the small. I just wanted to show you. You just let them brown on one side, flip them over, and then you might need to flip them back and forth a couple of different times. Just be careful because the oil is very hot. They are really good. You could actually serve those for breakfast with some syrup and butter drizzled over them. They would be fine like that, but they make a great little accompaniment to some soup. So here you go. This is a great recipe to use up some leftover ham, or, you know, ham that you just purchased specifically for making this soup. Mix it up, customize it to your taste, whatever kind of beans you like. I use chicken broth, but you could use vegetable broth. You could actually make this vegetarian if you wanted to leave out the ham. And